All right, shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Rakak Kodash. Double honors to the elders and the apostles of Great Millstone, and peace and blessings to the elect. And as you can see in the lesson, the title, you have to keep going over and over and over it again. And that's pertaining to the different various scriptures and the different various breakdowns of the scriptures. Really more so pertaining to the breakdowns that you have to keep going over and over and over again, because there's when you open the Bible, there's breakdowns throughout. There's stories of accounts of various things that took place. There's prophecies, there's history, there's law, statutes, and commandments. All right. There's prayers, there's psalms, there's wise sayings. So that's why the Bible is so important, because it comprises all these different aspects that, when put together, can be used or is being used for the perfecting of the saints. So when it comes to the breakdowns, the reason it's important for you to keep going over and over and over it again is the same reason it's important for an athlete per se to keep on running. If they're a track star, to keep running. If they're Mayweather, I'll give you an example, right? Mayweather or some other famous boxer. If say Mayweather, he's nice with his hands, right? And he's good in the ring. Now, say Mayweather was to stop doing his road work, and he wasn't to show up in the gym as much, and he wasn't to keep on with the mitts or the punching bag, all the different trainings that he does as much. What would happen to Mayweather? Eventually, it might not happen immediately, but eventually, as he goes into the ring, he'll start getting, taking L's. He'll start getting knocked out. His reflexes won't be as sharp. He won't be able to take certain hits. He'll be running out of stamina quick, because Mayweather is good because he keeps on practicing. He keeps on going over and over and over it again. And so he stays in that constant state of being sharp. And so we have to apply that to this truth, as Paul mentioned about striving for the masteries, and how these people in the world do it for a corruptible crown, but we do it for an incorruptible crown. So when we're in this truth as well, we got to also keep going over and over and over it again, so we can stay sharp. Because yeah, you may learn something and you may know it, but if you don't go over it and study it and practice it, it's gonna escape you. You're gonna start to forget things. You're gonna forget precepts. You're gonna forget what certain things mean here and there, because you're not constantly going over it. So yeah, you may understand Revelation 12, but if you don't keep going over Revelation 12, you're gonna eventually forget certain parts in there. Okay, you're gonna, oh yeah, that's the this part. So that's why, say you look at the elders for an example, right? The elders and the apostles. Now you think if Apostle Tahar, Apostle Gabar, Apostle Ramlab, or any of the other elders and apostles maybe they went over a breakdown 30 years ago, and they didn't touch it ever since. They said, well, since I already learned this and I already went over it, I don't got to go over it again. You think they will be as sharp as they are now? No, they're sharp like that now because for all these years they've been going over and over and over it again, because the scriptures stay the same, right? There's a certain amount of verses, chapters, books in this book, in the Bible, Apocrypha included. So, in a year you could read through the whole book. But you keep on going. Every time you go out there in the highways and byways, or you do a video, you're constantly going over it, going over it, going over it. And then in addition to that, you're studying, going over it, going over it, going over it. And that's showing diligence. And what is the Lord going to do? He's going to increase you. And as you go over it, if there's something more to reveal, he'll reveal it to you. But if you don't keep going over it, you're gonna start to lose that edge when it comes to the scriptures. So let's actually start off in the book of 2 Peter, chapter 1, verse 10. And it says here, wherefore the rather, brethren, give diligence to make your calling and election sure, for if ye do these things, ye shall never fall. So we understand that if you give diligence, if you give diligence, what? That's how you make your calling and election sure. Why? Because you're showing the Lord that based on the word he's given you, that you're taking it seriously. You're looking into it, you're looking here, you're looking there, you're going over this, you're making sure, all right, it's been a while since I went over maybe this particular scripture. So let me go back and go through it so it's fresh in my mind, so I know what it is. Because as teachers, anybody can come up to you and ask you something from anywhere in the scriptures. And the scriptures say you got to be able to answer every man. So somebody comes up to you and says, oh, I was reading the book of Daniel, the 9th chapter, or Daniel, the 8th or 7th chapter, and in this verse it said such and such. Now you may not have gone over it in a while, but if you're constantly going over these various breakdowns, there's certain key ones, the book of Daniel, book of Revelation, some of the key breakdowns, Isaiah, Jeremiah, in here and there. If you're constantly going over it, it won't be so vague in your mind, to where you can read a verse above it and just know what it's talking about. Because eventually it gets solidified, right? It gets solidified in your mind. And to the point where it becomes natural. You never forget what 2 + 2 is, so because in your everyday life, you're constantly doing addition. You're using mathematics in your day-to-day life. Okay? When you walk by, if somebody tells you, yo, the store is 3 blocks down, 1, 2, 3, okay, that's the store right there. So in your everyday, whenever you see something and you count, or you add, or you're using mathematics. So you never forget mathematics, the basics at least. And in this truth, as you're constantly every day dealing with the scriptures, going over these things, you never forget it. All right, so I'm going to go through a couple of these precepts that I have here because I'm a little short on time, but Lord willing, we'll go through it and it'll be edifying. So now this is the book of 2 Corinthians, chapter 8, verse 7. And it says, therefore, as ye abound in everything, in faith, and in utterance, and in knowledge, and in all diligence, and in your love to us, see that ye abound in this grace also. So now, how do you abound in faith and utterance and knowledge? Why do you think we're constantly getting tested? See, we have faith in the Lord, but yet the Lord is always trying our faith. The Lord is constantly trying and testing our faith. But why would he have to keep doing that? Because the more your faith gets tried, that's how your faith grows. That's how your faith gets stronger, the more it gets tried. All right? Because when that feeling of uncertainty, but then you pray to the Lord and you just believe that whatever you prayed for is going to happen. If you don't keep going through that, the next time you have to go through it, you're still going to be a little, shaky because it's not fresh. But if you're constantly going through situations where you got to pray to the Lord and then the Lord hears a prayer and answers it, and then you're like, oh, Lord, thank you so much. If you hadn't done that, man, it would have been over for my ass. You're constantly in that state of your faith being tried. And you every now and then you have to exercise that faith. You have to look, I don't know how I'm going to get out of this, but I have to believe that the Lord is going to deliver me. And boom, the Lord does it. And so it becomes natural, like breathing, and then the same thing in your knowledge, as it says here, abounding in faith and utterance, right? Utterance, speaking, how do you abound in that? You have to continuously do it. How do you get better at something? You have to keep going over and over and over it again. It says here, and knowledge and in all diligence. So how do you abound in knowledge? Well, you got to keep at it. You got to keep studying. You can never know enough. Now, this doesn't mean, because the scriptures talk about the making of many books, there is no end, and much study is weariness of the flesh. So it doesn't mean, well, go and try to learn everything in the whole world. But you have a guideline, which is the scriptures. So you can stay in the scriptures, but you can never read too many of the scriptures. Meaning, you can't, well, last year I read the whole Bible, so now I'm done. The Bible is not one of those books that is like a storybook. Although it has stories in it, it's not like a storybook where you just read from Genesis to Revelation and that's it. It was a good story. I read it. I'm done. No, that's not how the Bible is, and that's not how it's written. That's why we're constantly always in here. You say, damn, the pages never run out. It's funny, we use the same book, but yet for all these years, the Lord is constantly giving us the inspiration to edify and to teach. And it's the same book, the same precepts, but the lessons are different. And every time you still get edified. Because the utterance is coming by way of the Spirit, and the Spirit is infinite. So everything we say is being fed and charged by Yahweh B'Hashem Yahushai. However, the background or the proof that we're using is from the book. That's right. Here a little, there a little. That's how it's supposed to be read and understood. So next, I'm going to go into the Apocrypha. And we're going to start with the book of Sirach, the 6th chapter, and the 18th verse. And it says here, my son, gather instruction from thy youth up, so shalt thou find wisdom till thine old age. And remember, wisdom is a feminine spirit. So wisdom is likened unto a woman. Sometimes a mother, sometimes, a woman that you deal with. And what do women desire? What's one of the main desires of a woman from a man? Attention. The women want attention. They constantly want attention. All right. So when it comes to dealing with this truth, if wisdom is likened unto a woman, what happens when you don't give a woman attention? She's going to bug you for a bit, but eventually she's going to go try to seek attention elsewhere. Now, in a relationship between a man and a woman, she's not supposed to do that. But because they have liberty in this world, that's what they will do. They will turn elsewhere, somewhere where they can get attention. So next thing you know, the dude's woman is cheating on him with his friend. Why? Or her best friend. Oh, we're just friends. The hell you mean you're just friends? Because he's giving her more attention. When you're not giving her attention, guess what? She's going there. She got an outlet. Nevertheless, when you're dealing with wisdom, if you're not attentive and you don't give attention to wisdom is going to leave you. And it's going to go to one that will give attention to her. All right? And that's how the Most High does it. He's going to take that wisdom away from you and give it to somebody that is going to use her properly, because she is valuable. And if you don't value her, then you don't deserve her, so to speak. So continuing verse 19, it says, come on to her as one that ploweth and soweth. And one that ploweth and soweth, when you deal with a husbandman does not say, all right, it's time to sow, so I'm gonna sow, and when harvest times, I'm gonna reap, and then that's it. Never again. I'm not sowing anymore. I'm not reaping anymore. I'm not doing any more work. How are you gonna eat? So a husbandman is constantly plowing and reaping. He's constantly sowing and he's constantly harvesting, because that's the cycle. If he doesn't do it, he's not going to eat. So you need to come on to more of her, because if you stop plowing and reaping and sowing for wisdom, then think of wisdom like the harvest, like the crops. If you don't sow, when you come back, ain't nothing you can reap. And if you sow and you reap only once and you don't sow again, then you still ain't going to reap. Right? The crops, you ain't going to get no more crops. So that's how wisdom is. Now it says, and wait for her good fruits, for thou shalt not toil much in laboring about her, but thou shalt eat of her fruits right soon. She is very unpleasant to the unlearned. He that is without understanding will not remain with her. Why? Because the diligence is too much. He can't take it. He can't take. Now, people like the feel of knowing things, but they don't like to go and do the work in order to get that knowledge, right? So when wisdom lays upon them, they can't handle the burden of diligence to keep wisdom and to grow with wisdom. So because of that, they can't handle it. So they say, whatever. And they don't keep doing the diligence, and so they lose wisdom. Like you have a certain thing that you pay, whether it's monthly, maybe you have a subscription. Think of it like that. You have a subscription. Yeah, that's a good example. You have a subscription. Now, what happens if you stop paying for your subscription? You're going to lose whatever it is that you're subscribed to. So that's how wisdom is. If you stop paying for this subscription, because when you come into the truth, that's a nice subscription right there for wisdom and many other things. And when you stop paying your dues, making your body a living sacrifice, studying, seeking, if you stop that, which is your payment, or your payment gets declined, guess what? That fountain of wisdom gets cut off. And you'd be blessed or lucky, or the Lord will have if the Lord decides to have mercy on you, he might allow you to resubscribe. But if not, it's going to be a one-time thing, one and done. It says here, she will lie upon him as a mighty stone of trial. See? And in the subscription, what do you have? You have a free month trial or a trial period before they start, charging your card. And that trial period is to find out, well, is this for you or is it not? See? So when you come into this truth, the first trial period, they'll tell you a 14-day free trial or whatever. When you come into this truth, the trial period is when wisdom is having you dragging your ass left, right, tormenting you with her discipline. So when that trial period is over, you're either going to remain and then subscribe fully, or you're going to be back to where you were and say, nah, this ain't for me. It says, verse 22, for wisdom is according to her name. She is not manifest unto many. Why? Because not everybody can give the diligence or the payment required to subscribe to wisdom, to keep wisdom and to grow in wisdom. So that's why you got to keep going over and over and over it again. If you want to, the Lord has given us this wisdom, but if you want to maintain it and keep it, you have to keep on giving diligence. Diligence is not a one-time thing. That defeats the purpose of the definition. The next one is Sirach 38, starting at verse 24. And it says, oh, actually, let me take a look at this. This is this is Yaharlis, Judah, Israel, Ecclesiasticus 27:11. The discourse of a godly man is always with wisdom. You hear that? Always. But a fool changeth as the moon. As the moon has its cycles. See? This is the brother Kayal. Wisdom of Solomon, I believe. 1 and 4. For into a malicious soul wisdom shall not enter, nor dwell in a body that is subject unto sin. For the Holy Spirit of discipline will flee deceit, and remove from thoughts that are without understanding, and will not abide when unrighteousness cometh in. Exactly. Okay. Now, when you're not constantly going over, why do you think people botch breakdowns? Because they make two errors. One, they don't go over it, and two, before the right before they do a video on it or they speak on it, they still don't go over it. All right. So what do you expect to happen if you haven't gone over something in years, and then right before you go and teach it, you still don't go over it? Because you going over it before you teach it is when you realize, damn, I really haven't been, I got to really go back and get on my shit. But if you wait till you're in the middle of talking about it or doing a video on it or something like that to realize that, damn, I really haven't gone, So Ecclesiasticus 38, verse 24, and it says, the wisdom of a learned man cometh by opportunity of leisure, and he that hath little business shall become wise. Because he that hath leisure or little business has time to read and study and do it. He can allot himself a portion or a period of time where he can study and go over things and learn things. All right. Is something wrong with it? So somebody said they messing with the live. I don't know if it's like, if you guys can hear me clearly, let me know. But yeah, just let me know in the comment section. Continuing on, verse 25, it says, how can he get wisdom? All right, the water. It says, how can he get wisdom that holdeth the plow, and he that glorieth in the goad? Right? Because the plow is what is like a device that you would have. You would yoke two oxen, or creatures that you would use to plow together, most of the time oxen, and you would yoke them together, and then you would have the plow, which is like it has a sharp end. So as they're moving, they're dragging the plow, you're behind pressing it down, and so you can create those furrows in the ground, and you can drop the seeds as you go right into the ground. So it says here, how can he get wisdom that holdeth the plow? Because you're so busy putting in that work. It says, and he that glorieth in the goad, because in the goad is like a rod that has a sharp poke at the end of it. And what you would use it for is, a goad is somebody that has a goad is in other sense is the same as somebody that has a plow, because you're both doing the same job. The goad was used to direct the oxen, or the cattle in the direction you wanted them to go. So if either they didn't want to move or they were going in the wrong direction, you would use it to poke them so that they would either move forward or they would go in the right direction. It says here, he that glorieth in the goad that driveth oxen. See? And when you drive, what do? You have a steering wheel that move the car to the left, move the car to the right. Well, the goad is likened onto the steering wheel, because that's what you use to drive the oxen or direct them. It says, and is occupied in their labors, and whose talk is of bullocks. So somebody, for example, I believe Amos was I forget exactly if it said he was a sheep herder or something along those lines, but I believe he was a man of the field. Like, he was working there, and the Lord called him, to come and prophesy, basically for him. You see, so if you are somebody that is occupied in that with much business, you're not going to have time. You're not going to have that leisure time to go over these scriptures and constantly go over and over and over it again, because what are you going to be constantly going over? Your husbandry, your cattle, your oxen, plowing, right? It says here, he that giveth his mind to make furrows, and is diligent to give to the kind fodder. See? So pretty much everybody gives that diligence to their profession or to whatever it is that they are involved in. Now, as we are involved in this truth, we are to give what? Our time and our diligence to this truth. So just like Mayweather, when it comes to boxing, he goes over and over and over it again. That's why he's so good, because he's striving for the masteries. When it comes to this truth, we got to keep going over and over and over these breakdowns, the scriptures, the different various parts of the Bible over and over and over again, so we stay sharp in it. And that's why when these Christians and all these others try to come against us, they get confounded and they get cut. All right. I'm reading from the brother just put it up. If you go up a bit to Adam Nana, it's the book of Ecclesiasticus, chapter 38, verse 24. It's from the Apocrypha, right? So unless you have a 1611 King James Bible, you're not gonna find it in here. You gotta go to the Apocrypha and look for the book of Ecclesiasticus, or otherwise known as Sirach, the chapter 38, and you can start at verse 24. Okay, so just like that, that's why they come against us and they get confounded, because we're always going over it. So it's always fresh and it's always sharp. People say, well, how is it that you're able to quote precepts just like that? Boom, this one here, boom, this one here, because we're constantly going over it. We're doing this daily, right? Daily, like the elder apostle Gabar's page is what? The daily edification, daily exhortation. So we're daily going over it. So it's always fresh. All right. So the last precept I have here, and hey, Ayan Dabar, you're welcome. The last precept is the book of Sirach, chapter 39. So the next chapter and the first verse. And it says, but he that giveth his mind to the law of the Most High and is occupied in the meditation thereof, right, will seek out the wisdom of all the ancient and will be occupied in prophecies. So now there's the scriptures, there's the prophetic scriptures, but what are we doing? We're constantly going over those scriptures and applying it to what we see happening in the world. And when you give your mind to the laws of the Lord, what does that mean? That at all the time, for the most part, what are you thinking about? You're thinking about the things pertaining to this book, the things pertaining to Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai. Verse 2, he will keep the sayings of the renowned men, and where subtle parables are, he will be there also. Because he will understand it, because he's putting in that work. And if he doesn't understand it, he will seek to understand it. Verse 3, he will seek out the secrets of grave sentences and be conversant in dark parables. And that's going into the deep breakdowns, because there's certain chapters and books in the scriptures that are real difficult to understand if you don't study it. And maybe you may get it, somebody may break it down to you, but you may need to hear it a couple of times because your mind needs to process what it means. You know, because it's so, some of them are so complex, and really you need the Spirit. All right. It says, verse 4, he shall serve among great men and appear before princes. Why? Because he's going to be putting in great work. He's going to be putting in more work than the average. And if he's doing that, then he's going to get more results than the average. It says, he will travel through strange countries, for he hath tried the good and the evil among men. He will give his heart to resort early to the Lord that made him, and will pray before the Most High, and will open his mouth in prayer and make supplication for his sins. When the great Lord will, he shall be filled with the spirit of understanding. See, because as the Lord sees the diligence he's given, the Lord is going to fill him with the spirit of understanding. Meaning, he's going to be likened unto a clean vessel, and the Lord is not going to put his water or his essential goods in a dirty vessel. The Lord is looking for a clean vessel. So as you are given diligence, you're going to be glowing, showing the Lord that you're striving for that. So it says here, he shall pour out wise sentences and give thanks unto the Lord in his prayer. How is he going to pour out wise sentences? Because he's going to be studying. He's going to be constantly going over it and over it and over it again. It says here, he shall direct. It says, and give thanks unto the Lord in his prayer. He shall direct his counsel and knowledge, and in his secrets he shall meditate. He shall shew forth that which he hath learned. See? So when you study and you learn these things, the more you learn, the more you can teach. The more you know, the more you understand, the more you can edify. It says, and shall glory in the law of the covenant of the Lord. Many shall commend his understanding, and so long as the world endureth, it shall not be blotted out. His memorial shall not depart away, and his name shall live from generation to generation. Nations shall shew forth his wisdom, and the congregation shall declare his praise. Right, because he's putting in all that hard work. You know, so the moral of the lesson is, you got to keep on studying. You got to keep on going over and over and over these scriptures, over these breakdowns over again, so that it's sharp. So when one day you just put on the spot, you're not, caught lacking, because you may have just gone over it. Oh, wow, I was just going over that yesterday, or whatever the case may be. So it's like you're in that cycle, of constantly being in the spirit, because you're constantly going over it. And each time you go over it, the Lord might reveal a little something more to you. All right. So that's also a part of giving diligence. Yeah, you go out there and teach, and you do these videos, but how do you really grow? By the training, by the practice, by the work that you're putting in, by whatever you're eating. Okay, so the more you learn and study, the more you grow. The more you grow, the more you can teach and help others grow. So with that, I'm going to end it here. In closing, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahushai, Bahashem, Rachak Wadash. Lord willing, you were edified. And until next time, Shalom.